Your performance has to be absolutely top notch. You're only as good as your last speech.
You have to have a crystal clear picture of your client.
Find the pain, be the solution.
Now that you've identified some of your greatest challenges, are you ready to learn tips from the pros? Yay! Whether you are a new or a seasoned presenter, if you are struggling to get your feet under you in this process, or frustrated with how to market yourself and get paid speeches, this is a loaded session. By special request, our meeting tonight showcases high caliber, full-time international presenters sharing the wisdom from a collective of, get this, 100 years experience. Whoa, that's a lot.
Collective, Michael, collective.
Thank you. Thank you. Greg brings the average up. You know that. He brings the number up.
Years of experience. Since the program's inception in 1981, only 87 Toastmasters have earned the elite credential of accredited speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this session brings you 5. The Accredited Speaker Program is designed for professional presenters, speakers, trainers, lecturers who combine expert knowledge in a particular subject with mastery of the spoken word, making them sought-after experts in their respective fields. Our session facilitator is the youngest female to have earned this designation, passing the 2-level process the first application time. She is a keynote presenter at large conferences on boosting attitude and engagement, and a top-rated international trainer on communication and marketing. Sheryl Roush has previously presented webinars for GoPro on designing speaking and marketing materials and one-sheets. A Toastmasters member since 1987, she has presented in 12 countries. She just came back from Bahrain in the Middle East, and now she's heading off to the Philippines. So please help me in giving a warm Canadian welcome to our facilitator, accredited speaker, Sheryl Roush in Are You Challenging Yourself Enough?
Yay! Thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone on Zoom. Thank you for being there on site. It's great to have Bob Hooey in the house sitting there representing us. So thank you very much. And Benita, thank you for the idea and the invitation for tonight's session. And Gloria, thank you for your fabulous introductions. I'm not alone tonight, and I don't think that my colleagues were expecting me to have tallied up how many years of Toastmasters and speaking that we have, and it is right at 100 years. That's amazing to me, and that's what we're bringing to you tonight. So let me introduce you to my colleagues, and then what we'll be doing as an overview is talking about the Accredited Speaker Program, each of our journeys to earning the Accredited Speaker designation, what it actually is, some of the rules, and how do you set your goals, especially are you challenging yourself enough? It was wonderful to be on early and listen to the self-introductions tonight to see what your challenges are, as well as where you're headed to overcome those challenges. Between us, we have great insights to share with you. And I'm thrilled that we have just under 2 hours, because with 5 of us, we will manage our time and support everything that you want. So thank you again, and to GoPro speakers for the vision of having accredited speakers as guests at your meeting. So thank you for zooming us in and tapping all the expertise that we can bring to you and the inspiration as well. So my very first colleague, these are in alphabetical order by last name, by the way. So Michael Baer is an internationally recognized change expert. So I want you to listen to their topics. So if you're thinking, hey, what value do I bring? That's why I asked them to provide more information for you. So he's a recognized change expert, helping his healthcare clients across the US and Canada create successful, self-sustaining, lean cultures. So he will be explaining that. He's been a Toastmaster for over 23 years. He has been a district speech contest winner not once, not twice, but 3 times, getting to the semifinals in 1998. Some of you probably competed against him. The journey to the world stage and downsizing led Michael to a 21-year and still counting professional speaking career. He is both a newly minted Toastmasters Accredited Speaker and the National Speakers Association, Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, Certified Speaking Professional. And to give you an idea of what that means, there are only 6 of those in the world who hold both titles. He is number 83 out of the 87 for Toastmasters Accredited Speaker, and he's the only Canadian, by the way, to hold both of those titles. So Michael Bayer, if you want to wave, yay! So thank you. Our second colleague, and she is already off the platform today giving a workshop. So she's, and facing laryngitis, she's going to give us every squeak she's got left. And she is your homegrown Alberta accredited speaker, Freddi Dogterom. Yay! So many of you have heard her present at District 42 conferences and district speech contests. In 2005, she was a District 42 evaluation and table topics champion. She's been a Toastmaster for 18 years, and she says she's just getting started. Freddi earned her accredited speaker designation in 2017 in Vancouver, British Columbia, becoming number 79 overall. So you are the folks, she's very thrilled to say, that supported and encouraged her as she pursued this elite designation. So welcome, Freddi. Yay! Our third accredited speaker is sitting in the room. It's Bob Idea Man Hooey. Feel free to give him high fives. He has several leadership titles, including most recently a past region advisor. Both Bob and I are past district governors in our districts. Today we know those titles as district directors. And Bob is a 29-year veteran Toastmasters leader who now travels the globe. I think he was born on an airplane. He gets around. He works with committed leaders to equip their teams to profitably grow. Bob's idea-rich business leadership has been applied by leading-edge organizations around the globe. His travels have taken him to 61 countries so far, speaking in 24 of those 61. Bob credits Toastmasters and specifically his journey in the Accredited Speaker Program for making that dream a reality. His greatest joy is seeing people realize their potential and to stretch to move past their comfort zone into the winner's zone. He's still an active Toastmaster as he is still learning. Let's welcome Bob Hooey. Last and not least, Greg Wood works with organizations that want to magically grow. Pay attention to the thematic text here. This is great introduction. And Greg, keep waving so people know who you are there. So Greg works with organizations that want to magically grow their leadership so they can levitate their business, make problems vanish, and watch profits appear. He has been speaking professionally for over 25 years and has presented in 10 countries on 5 continents. Greg speaks at conferences, schools, and association meetings, including speaker trainings. He's a contributing author to Keystones and Cornerstones, Solid Foundations for Success in Business and Life, which released in May, and it's available on Amazon. Gotta love that plug, by the way. And Michael is also a contributing author to this book. And Greg speaks on the magic of believing in you. So let's welcome Greg Wood. Yay! So as you're thinking about questions you might have for us, you might want to grab a piece of paper or write them down on the back of the agenda there. And we're going to jump in with information regarding the Accredited Speaker Program. So if you would raise your hand, go pro, if you are interested, seriously interested in earning the Accredited Speaker designation. So raise your hand if you're serious about the designation. All right, so I count about 4 or 5. Bob, are you still serious? Okay, thanks. I can see you. All right, because this program truly is for those who are serious about the elite professional credential. A lot of people have this belief that, oh, it's the next thing after Distinguished Toastmaster. No, it's not. And hopefully you were able to download the program rules and the application before tonight's session, and also took a look at the recommendation form and maybe even the judge's ballot form. So there are several documents that you can download from the accredited speaker area of Toastmasters.org. And you want to be very familiar with this. Tonight, we're also going to introduce you to a couple of the changes in policy that you need to know because they will work to your advantage. So you want to pay attention to those too. Overall, the program rules are that you must be a Toastmaster member in a good standing, because there are people who want to earn our designation who are not members, by the way. So that's one of our first caveats. You need to have earned one of the following education awards or higher. And matter of fact, you have a copy of the handout for tonight, right? So did you receive this document? Yes, okay, great, thank you, thank you, thank you, got it. Okay, so right there at the top of this, and I created this for you, so this is a brand new handout where you can download the information. So right up at the top there where it's talking about the application and you want to review it, there's a change to the policy in this one where if you've earned any of the following education awards, where it's Able Toastmaster from the Legacy Program, Advanced Toastmaster Bronze, Advanced Communicator Bronze, again from the Legacy Education Program, or completion of all levels in a single path, starting with the 2020 application cycle, then you may qualify. Notice that it does not say Distinguished Toastmaster. So that is not, it's not required. What the judges are looking for, and I'll cut to the bottom line, judges are looking for people that they would pay to speak, recommend to be hired to speak, or for the accredited speakers that we would say, yes, I would love to speak on a program with that colleague. So we're looking for more professional speakers and colleagues in route to this. So let me pause there, and if each of my colleagues would please share what is your path to this. So for instance, Michael, let's start with you again in alphabetical order. So what did the accredited speaker do for you, and what did you do prior to earning the designation this past year, gosh, just a couple of months ago in Denver? So give us an idea, share your story. What's your journey?
Well, my journey, you know, I failed level 1 3 times. My journey was, I'm a trainer, and I'm a very good trainer. However, when you're going for the accredited speaker, the type of presentation you're doing is more keynoting. And I had to learn that. So that was the big growth thing for me, that I actually had to learn how to keynote. The other challenge was that the tape that I submitted, the video, was about 43 and a half minutes. So I just nipping at that 45-minute edge. I got the letter and I said, congratulations, we'd love to have you. Now cut that down to 15 minutes. So now we had to do a major edit as well, and basically a full and total rewrite. So it was a very busy summer, writing and practicing, and that was the big learning for me in terms of learning how to keynote properly.
So what you're explaining then, Michael, is that for level 1, which by the way, this is one of the changes now, that it can be as short as 20 up to 60 minutes. Yep. That's a new policy change for this application period. And the 43 and a half minutes does not include your introduction time. So even at that, you were still squeaking pretty close, because what Michael's explaining is that at level 1, this past application cycle, it was a maximum of 45 minutes, period. And the first time that Darren LaCroix, world champion CSP, now AS as well, when he submitted, his video was 60 minutes long. So he did not qualify even at the application stage. And there's several reasons why people do not qualify at the different levels. So congratulations, Michael, that you made it past this time.
So can I just add one thing? You know, so the presentation was actually timed out, with questions and everything else. It would probably take about an hour. So prior to even starting, I asked the audience, please hold off any questions until we're finished, till the tape's done, and then I'll answer any questions that you want. because I was really apprehensive that I was going to go overtime. So
And
the
you would
audience
have.
was really good. They held their questions back, and then it took about another 10 or 15 minutes once the tape was finished. But I made it, I made it in the window that I had, and that was.
So let's go there for another minute here, if we can, because the video needs to be professionally recorded where you are wired for sound. If you use, because too, they don't necessarily need to be keynote style, because what the judges are looking for are professional presenters do what it is that you do. So for instance, when we hear from Greg, we'll hear about his magic and how he ties that in. Freddi has her style. Bob Hooey has his style. So they don't necessarily need to be keynote. However, when the program started in 1981, yes, it was, because the award, and you can see my plaque right there on the wall, is for outstanding platform presentation skills, where back then it was keynote. Most of us today, and listening into your self-introductions, is that we need to have education and high return on investment in whatever type of style or facilitation that we're doing. So for instance, a speaker may be disqualified at level 1 if the video does not fit within that time window, and now it's 20 to 60 minutes, if they are not professionally wired for sound, because if the judges can't hear them, they can't judge them, and the video that goes onto the application form must also have one of the recommendation forms completed from that meeting planner, preferably from a paid engagement. So there's 3 things all in one regarding that video. You want to add to that, Michael? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the other thing we have to remember too, Sheryl, is it's all about content. And they pay us for our content. So, we talk about all the technical things, which are all very, very important. But the bottom line is, if you don't have the content, or your content isn't organized well, you fail. And that happened to me. It was just poor organization. And then when I realized what I had to do, and thank you, Greg Wood, because he really helped me through this process, that's when I got focused to do what I had to do.
This is great. And thank you for saying the word focus too, Michael, because some of the challenges that GoPro speakers had indicated in their introduction was getting focused or even picking their lane. So following their lane on that. We'll come back to more of your story then, and especially as we go through of what has the accredited speaker done for you now, and especially with your CSP. So for there, let's go over to Freddi. And Freddi, if you would please unmute and share your journey, because you also did not pass the first time. So share with us what you did differently and what's your story.
All right. I joined Toastmasters as a professional speaker. And the reason that I joined Toastmasters is because, well, 2 reasons. First of all, I wanted more tools in my speaking toolbox. I wanted to learn expanded skills. But secondly, I wanted to get top quality evaluations from people that were not stroking the check. I wanted to get evaluations from folks that understood the construct of a good speech, would give me a good evaluation, and not just pat me on the head and say, there, Freddi, you look good, so therefore I can't evaluate you. And so what Toastmasters did for me was to give me those really high quality evaluations. Now, I can't claim Michael's 3 strikes that I was almost out, but I did fail twice at level 1. The first time I applied was way, way back before video, and it was an audio tape. And it was a really good keynote, but the quality of the audio tape was very poor. It was one of those ones where it was sort of recorded on that, the little handheld tape recorder, and people were coughing and shuffling papers, and a baby was crying in the middle of it. And then when I duplicated it, because you had to send in 6 copies of the audio tape, when I duplicated it, the quality degraded even further. So I can take full credit for that failure.
Wow.
I waited a few years before I applied again, because I was working, I was building my business, I was competing with Toastmasters and having a ball doing that. And then the requirements changed to video. I sent in my first video and it was more than 45 minutes. Yikes. So, nice letter. Dear Freddi, you lose. So I decided that it was about time I sat down and I actually read the rules, all of the rules, not just the ones I liked. And so the best advice I can give you is, number one, read all the rules. So when I sent my next video in, it was a keynote. The video was good, the audio was good, they could see me, they could hear me, they could see the introduction, they could see the master of ceremonies come back afterwards and do the synopsis of what I had said.
So it was complete. The video was complete.
And everything, including the introduction, was 48 minutes. And they don't count the introduction and the synopsis. So I passed. And I went on to level 2. Well, I took my very best keynote, my most popular keynote. Some of you might have seen me walking around with a 5-foot Inukshuk. And this keynote is tremendously popular with my audiences, where I talk about building your life through the relationships that you choose to have. And I use the Canadian metaphor of an Inukshuk, and I physically build it. Well, this is a really great keynote. The mistake I made is that I took this keynote and then I tried to cobble it down to 20 minutes. Well, the editing process that's a hard thing to do. And as I was editing it down, obviously, because I was not successful, my editing left the wrong things on the cutting room floor. However, the cool thing is that this presentation was a total audience favorite in Las Vegas. I still get comments from people who heard my failed presentation in Vegas. The audience absolutely loved it. But a couple of the judges, and we get the judges' comment, the one judge said she or he, I'm not sure, had no idea what I was talking about. I'm going, what do you mean? I showed you, I told you, I demonstrated, I threw rocks around. How could you not know? The lesson that I learned there is that your introduction is absolutely critical. Your introduction sets the stage. So when I did my do-over in Vancouver in 2017, I probably spent 50 hours just doing my 57-second introduction. So your introduction is absolutely key because it sets the stage. So Margaret Page did a little bit, but I had a video introduction because, sometimes the MCs like to throw little extra bits in, and I just didn't want my introduction to get mucked up. So I did a video introduction, and I had the audience imagine that they were all Canadians, they were all over 50 years of age. This was the audience. So I carefully crafted and set the stage. Then I gave my presentation, and short time later, they gave me one of these. And my favorite jewelry, one of these.
That's right. Yay.
So I think that the best thing that happened for my speaking career and for my speaking ability was to fail, because that really made me drop a gear and just really get in the trenches. Later on, I think I'll have the opportunity to tell you exactly how I prepared for the second time, but that's enough for me for right now.
Okay, so rest your voice and make sure that we come back to that. Thank you very much, Freddi. I remember now about the audios, because I earned mine in 1993, and Bob, you can attest to this, because back then we did audio cassettes. It wasn't even to CDs yet. And you kids these days, you get the video. So, but we had the audio, and you're right, it had to be very well recorded in order to actually be heard at all. So I'm going to allude to something that Freddi just pointed out, and that is the feedback that you get from the judges. This is the only document that is not posted online, and it is the comment form that the judges are now using for both level 1, level 2. It's a 2-page document providing feedback to the presenters. So a couple of these questions on here: overall, what went well? Number 2, overall, what could be improved? Number 3, would you hire this speaker? Explain briefly why or why not. Number 4, would you refer this speaker for paid engagements? Briefly explain why or why not. And number 5, what additional feedback would you like to share with the speaker? The speaker introduction that she's also alluding to is absolutely vital, because what this presentation is not about, there should not be anything Toastmaster-ish in this. Not in your application, not in your speaker introduction, not on the platform for level 1 or for level 2 presentations. This is a professional designation. It is a credential that could make or break your career. It can also increase your monetary fees that you charge. So this is a serious consideration. And thank you very much, Freddi, for pointing out how diligent that you were on crafting that introduction. So nothing about speech contests, nothing about that you've served in leadership. No, what do you do that you get paid to do? So whether it be like for Michael, lean training, whether it be for Freddi, because you have both workshops as well as keynotes, and we're going to hear from our other colleagues here too. What I want you to listen to, GoPro, is that we each have different topics. We have different styles of how we present, and yet this credential is a level playing field that the judges are looking for. Show me what you do that you get paid to do. So with that, Freddi, thank you very much. Let's go to Bob Hooey then. So Bob, if you would share some of your story with us and what you did differently between your first and second attempts at it.
And third.
Oh, and third. Oh, yes, thank you. Sorry, yes.
I was a slow learner. But, I'll move up front so people on.
Or just have the microphone.
I've got the mic, so I'll just.
Oh, okay. You sound good.
Well, then I come up here where you can see me, and then I look.
That's fine.
All right.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, everybody. Basically, it took me 3 shots at this. I took a year off. My first year, back in those days, the program was set up for people who may get income. That's what it said, for which you might get paid in the application form. And at that point, I'd never been paid, but I wanted to, because that's why I joined Toastmasters. I joined Toastmasters because I wanted to do what I'm doing now, which is traveling the world and encouraging people. And all of a sudden, I heard about this program called the Accredited Speaker for Professional Speakers. So I was in, and there were 7 of us. Actually, there was 7 of us that used to meet every month. We would get together and mastermind on this program. First thing we did was everybody get the rules and look at the rules, which is what somebody said. You should find out what you need to do to qualify. So I qualified the first year because we pushed each other in our mastermind. There were 32 people applied that year. 5 of them qualified going through level 1 to go on to level 2. Of those 5, 3 were from Canada. All 3 of us were from the same club. And that's work together as a success team on this program. I was not successful the first year. So I came back the next year with a different program and delivered what I thought was my best 1-3, and the judges trashed it. And I just about quit. And a few people, including people like Sheryl, said, don't quit, you need to get this, keep after it. So I went back, I took a year off when I was district governor for 21, and came back at the end of my year in Palm Desert for try 3. You're allowed 3 tries at this. If you qualify for level 1, you get 3 shots at level 2. And I thought, I've paid my freight. I should at least take the 3rd shot. I'm at the thing. Maybe it's the bottom of the 9th. We'll see what happens with the thing. And surprise, surprise, I got it. No problem the 3rd time. So there were people in that audience that were more excited about it than I was. And I still remember walking across that stage. I was backstage, and Dan Rex, who is now our international
CEO.
said, Bob, why are you back here? Everybody else is coming up from the floor, like Jana Barnhill, Joan Watson. And I said, but Dan, I visualized this 3 years ago, walking across the stage to do this. So he said, okay, cool, no problem.
Yeah.
So I did that.
There you go.
But the
All right.
key
So
learning
then,
a lot of it was, one, make sure you know what you're doing. Because when I started down this path, I was not yet a professional speaker. When I got it in San Diego, in Palm Desert, I was a member of NSA, and we had started CAPS here in Canada. So I was a professional speaker. So the journey got me to where I needed to go. But I wanted.
Do you remember what your topic area was, Bob, the third time? Do you remember what your topic area was the third?
The third one, I know exactly what it was one of the programs that I was speaking professionally, which was a basic thing called I'm Running Too Fast. In fact, it's one of my books on time management. And
time management. Okay.
that's what I was doing when I was starting. But, and again, of the three,
Got it.
the one I did as a full-blown keynote, I can't remember what the title was now, even for the second one, was the better of the three. And yet the judges didn't get it, because back in those days, there weren't very many, if any, accredited speakers judging. It was
that's true.
International directors, or past this or past that. And from what I got from the official, the things he was mentioning, I actually turned to him, I think it was Len Jury, and I said, didn't the judges like anything? Because it was like, they didn't like this, they didn't like this, they didn't like this. And I was crestfallen, to be honest. But people like Sheryl told me to keep going, and I came back at it from a different perspective. Plus, by the time I came back at it from my third try, I already was a professional speaker. So when I walked on the stage, I already had what I wanted. It was just a matter of whether Toastmasters was going to recognize that professionalism or not. And that's the difference now with the program, is we're attracting a lot more people who are already in the business of speaking, who are showing up with the skill sets, and then the judges are seeing it. And that's why we're seeing so many. We've seen 20 people get it in the last 4 years out of 80. 20 people.
Matter of fact, let me pause you there, Bob, because I actually have what the statistics are. And by the way, Mark, if you can check the Wi-Fi in the room, because Bob's sound is being sporadic, where it kind of holds there. So for instance, for the 2019 application cycle, there were 19 applicants. So 19 people sent in their application with the video, with the letters of recommendation. And by the way, you need 5 letters of recommendation. You do not collect these. These go directly from your meeting planner directly to World Headquarters and placed into an electronic folder, so that when everything comes in before the deadline, so the application period is January 1 to February 1, you want to make sure to have more than you need of these recommendation forms. So there are things that happen for disqualification between level 1. So we had 19 applicants, 7 disqualifications. That could be, Freddi, as you said it, read the rules. It could be that somebody didn't do one little thing, and maybe everything else they could have qualified for, but they're missing one letter of recommendation. Or that if their video also used slides, that they didn't submit the slide deck saved as a PDF so the judges could see it. Or if there was a handout given to the audience, that the handout wasn't submitted with the application. So from those 19, disqualifying 7, do the math, there's 12 from level 1 that continued to the actual judging. Because there were 12, and because those presentations, as Michael pointed out, could be up to 45 minutes, this year there were 2 judging teams, of which there are 5 judges on each team. The judges, it's 80% of the judges need to pass you. So you're talking 4 out of the 5 judges need to pass you. And it is a pass or fail. On the judging form, it's pass or fail. So GoPro, I would suggest that you start using the 2-page judging form with the criteria for every presentation that you're giving inside one of your clubs, and you have your club members complete that. and that they either say pass or fail. So talk about all the practice that you're doing for this. So from those 2 judging teams, the 12 that continued to actually be judged, 4 of those passed level 1. So that would be the video, the application, which we can have a whole conversation just on the application process itself. So those 4 passed to become candidates to present in Denver. So here's what happened in Denver this year. There were, of those 4, 3 continued on to level 2. There was 1 holdover from last year. So for instance, when Freddi qualified for level 2, she decided to hold over until it was back in Canada for Vancouver, and she rocked the stage. So you can do that. You can hold over a year. So we had 1 holdover from last year, which is Paul Artali, who was competing in the semifinals for the World Championship last year. And a candidate cannot also be a contestant at the same time. It's either one or the other, because the dress rehearsals, the debriefings, they're held at the same time. So TI had Paul make a decision. So he held over from Chicago into Denver this year. Then from these 7 candidates, then there were 3 returning candidates on their 2nd attempt. Greg Van Borsum from Australia, Simadal from Chicago, and Yelena from Seattle, Washington. So all 3 of those last year had committed to coming back, doing it again. And it's interesting because each of those 3 have determined that why they didn't pass level 2, and Freddi, perhaps you resonate with this as well, and you know, well, many of us might, is that we needed to do what it is we do. So for instance, Greg speaks about suicide, having shared his own story. When he came to Chicago last year, one of his friends had just committed suicide before he got on the plane. He was in no condition. It was too raw for him to do what it is he does. He impromptu'd an entire 20-minute message that still is absolutely fantastic. You would never know. He kind of lost some of his structure at the very end, but he gave it a go. He gave it a go. With Sima, she also did the same thing. She didn't do what she normally does. And Yelena is a classical, world-class Steinway grand pianist, and she spoke on something else unrelated to music last year. So all 3 of those came back, and they rocked, plus Paul. Every single candidate this year did what they do. So they brought their A game, whether it be a keynote or training sprinkled with humor or whatever that it is. They each did what it is that was authentic to them. So GoProers, how this relates to you is when you're trying to find your lane or pick your lane, be authentic with what it is. Bring that to this program. So Bob, if I can put you on hold now, Greg Wood, if you would please share with us your story as well as your preparation for it. And you and Michael are members of the same club, so you kind of had your own mastermind going as well. Take it from there, Greg.
Yeah, the purpose of that club was the same as GoPro. It was to allow people to get to the point where they can apply for the accredited speakers designation. That's as far as we'll take them that far. You got to earn it on your own, but we'll take them that far. That's the idea. I started Toastmasters. I was already a professional entertainer. I'd been theater trained and left that for a while to run a land surveying business for like 20 years, and then went back to being an entertainer. So being in front of people didn't bother me, but putting stuff together so that you had a keynote type of a talk was something that I was looking to do, and Toastmasters allowed me to do that. I really, in the first year, I earned my CC and competent communicator, and I did it by doing individual pieces of a keynote that I was presenting at that time to high school students. And so that was what I got there. And then, so that was 2014. 2016, I think we finally got going. We started talking about it in 2015, and in 2016 we started Keystone Speakers, and the intent of that was exactly that, to give people the opportunity to apply And it was a matter then of getting, oh, no, I still had to get my advanced communicator bronze, so I had to do a couple more books. I get my advanced communicator bronze. That was some work in that year, but I also had to then go out and get some of the letters of recommendation forms, actually filled out that way and sent directly in.
Yes.
Because they're supposed to go directly to, so you have to make up some, things sometimes because people send them back to you. But I mean, I'm always, for years, letters of recommendation have been part of my business. If you don't have people saying nice things about you besides you or your mom, and my mom still doesn't do it, so she's waiting for me to get a real job too. But the idea behind it was to get these, so I got those, and you had to have 5 of them, I think. So in that year and a half, 2-year period, I got, I don't know, 8 or 10. And, then National writes me a letter, you don't need any more. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to give you enough. You can use the best 5. It didn't seem any extra work for me. Somebody was already saying nice things about me, I'd hand them a form and have them fill it out. So, and I did. One of the pieces of advice that I got from Johnny Campbell very early, another accredited speaker, Johnny Campbell, is do what you do. And what I do is my presentations, I educate, I entertain, but a lot of what I do is tied together in magic. I don't use PowerPoint. I learned years ago not directly from David Copperfield, but from his coach, stay away from anything electronic if you can. There are many stories of what David Copperfield could have done some things differently, but he refused to do anything that required mechanics, because if it failed, he'd be, stuck there and not being produced or escaping or whatever. So he refused to do that. So I like the same idea where I'm in control of those type of things. So I stay away. And not that I don't use PowerPoint in some way presentations, and when I'm facilitating meetings, when I'm doing facilitation on Everyone Communicates Few Connect, I use a lot of PowerPoints in that. But for most of what I do the magic, and it's part of the illustration. It's not just to grab their attention, but it's part of the illustration of what I do. So that's what I did. I took a high school presentation that I did and had that filmed, videoed, filmed. How old am I? Had that recorded, because it wouldn't even have been videotaped, would it? It would have been recorded because there's no tape in those things. But I had that recorded, and that's what I sent in. And I tried to take that 40-minute presentation and shrink it down to a 20-minute 18-minute presentation. And I was totally unable to do that and still have any credence. The reason I really liked it is, or wanted to do it, because it was the magic of believing in you, which is move beyond your self-limiting beliefs, add value to others, guard your self-talk, identify and implement the one-word strategy, compare yourself only to you. That's MAGIC, the magic of believing in you. And it kind of ties it together, but just no way could I get enough of any of them in. So
if Freddi had done an acrostic for Inukshuk, she would have passed the first time?
He'd still be there for Inukshuk. Still be delivering it. So I cut it back. I did MA. I did move beyond your self-limiting beliefs and add value to others. I didn't tell anybody, oh, this is 2/5 of the entire talk. I just put it together, and then of course brought the ending back in and did it that way. But that's what I did. And so it's what I do. So why would I do something different? It didn't make any sense. It's who I am. It's what I've been doing for years. It seemed to me to be the best way to go. I just want to say something about picking a lane, though, because you do need to pick a lane, but you can't market to everybody, and you can't talk on everything. What we're looking for here is experts in a subject matter. And you can't be an expert in everything. Not even my wife is an expert in everything. Oh, wait, this is being recorded.
Yeah.
But you can't be an expert in everything, so you need to pick something. And of course, expert presentation skills. You can have that, but you still need a subject matter. But I picked a lane a little while ago. I thought that I would be working with educators, and I would help educators discover the magic of leadership. And I discovered that they just don't pay anything, or certainly not to make it worth my while. Oh, we'll have you out, but we have $500, $700, and so I rather do something else for make my money someplace else. So I changed lanes. I've changed lanes now. Just because you pick a lane doesn't mean you're marrying it. Of course, in this day and age, you can marry and divorce in 2 years and get another one anyway, but that's beside the point. You're not married to that. Picking a lane should not be that scary. And that's why just pick something and then work in that area so that you can become at least an expert in that area. You're not stuck with it for the rest of your life. I mean, how many people are speaking now on what they spoke in 20 years ago?
That's true. Well, Greg, let me start you off on this question, and we'll go back through our colleagues too. Because one of the questions that our GoProers would like to know is, how has earning the designation, what's it done for you? What's it done for you?
What's it done for me?
Right.
It does not automatically. You don't just sit back and go, oh, I'm an accredited speaker now. Their phone's just going to ring right off the hook. Think about it. I mean, I put accredited speaker up on my website and on my Facebook page. So I'm just going to sit back for the phone to ring. It doesn't work that way. You still need to be out there on the phone and sending out emails and sending out ships. You're waiting for your ship to come in. If you've never sent any out, they're not coming in. But you got to be out there doing that work. But it gives you more credibility. I already had credibility as an entertainer. That wasn't my problem. But he's an entertainer. But we're looking for someone to do a keynote. And well, I'm an accredited speaker. That's a designation that only, I don't know how many now, under 90.
87.
Yeah.
87.
Yeah, under 90 people, and only 12 in Canada.
So you put that into your marketing materials.
Yes, I put it in my marketing materials, and it gives me that extra credibility that, oh, not only is he entertaining, but he's also a good speaker. Mm-hmm. Other people have said nice things about him. It's like letters of recommendation, really, but from a professional group. And that's what I really stress, is this is a professional group.
Yeah.
And I also, one of the other things I learned, by the way, when I switched from the long version to the short version, somebody told me, somebody very smart lady down south somewhere, San Francisco. Anyway, she said, don't be Toastmastery. And luckily I'd only been in Toastmasters at that time about 3 years. So I hadn't been ruined yet.
There you go. Good. All right. Thank you for that, Greg. I'm going to hop over to Freddi. All right. So having earned the designation now, and you have credentials galore. There are so many initials after your name. What does this one mean to you?
Well, it means more to me than it does to the people that hire me, quite honestly. Speaking, to the GoPro group, if you're looking at achieving or earning an accredited speaker designation with hopes that, like Greg said, the phone is going to start ringing off the wall, that's not going to happen. But what it did is it proved to me that I could do the work, that I could have the discipline, I had the expertise, I had the depth of subject knowledge that my peers could recognize that I was speaking and performing and delivering at a professional level. What it was it was a great reminder and pat on the back for me. And that might sound a little selfish because it was all about me, but that's what the accredited speaker designation did. Now, what it helped me with was that whole sense of competence, because being a professional speaker is probably one of the most difficult career paths on the planet, because you put yourself out there. We throw our whole soul out to the audience. And it's wonderful if they're learning, they're engaging, and they're, you know, feeding back to you. That doesn't always happen. And sometimes when you throw it all out there on the table and you get this insipid, yeah, what's for lunch? You know, you're going, why am I doing this? You know, I could be at home watching TV, or I could be playing with my grandkids instead of driving through a blizzard to Saskatoon in January.
Wait, I've done that. I've done that.
Me too. Every time I go to Saskatchewan, we get a blizzard. So that's why they don't let me in anymore. But that's what it did for me. It gave me that additional level of confidence and sense of competence. Because what I learned in my successful year was that I took a field of knowledge that I have. My thing is that I build people. That's what I do. I build people. I'm a soft skills expert. And one of my many credentials is I do retirement lifestyle planning. Not the money, because the financial services industry and the banks, they do a good job of that. But I deal with the time. I deal with the lifestyle stuff. And so I took a 7-hour seminar and I pulled out all of the essential bits, and I purposely crafted a 20-minute presentation for my presentation in Vancouver. So it was purpose built for the Accredited Speaker Program. So I took what I knew and I really, really refined it. It took me a year. My home club could probably teach the seminar because they heard it so many times and they gave me such great feedback. Those of you, if you're in District 99, we used to all be in District 42. Some of you were at the district spring convention where I would, you know, do a practice session, and then some of the champion evaluators would come and give evaluation. I would videotape it and I would send it out to people that I knew and trusted, and they would give it back to me. So it was crafted from the ground up, from a very, very deep area of knowledge that I already have. I give this seminar, and then what I did is that I took my 20-minute Toastmaster accredited speaker presentation and I blew it up, and now I've got the most amazing keynote. I mean, people love this keynote. Cheryl, even you learned something.
I did. I did. You know, and I'm thinking, you want to go and look at these accredited speaker presentations. So Toastmasters on Demand, you can pull up from the past at least 3 years. Greg is also on our Zoom now too. Listen to the podcast interviews that he's done. He goes more into detail, and thank you, Greg. You're such a fantastic interviewer. And watch these presentations on Toastmasters on Demand. And this year, all of the presentations, there's 2 different sections of it, both totally for $14.99 US. So, and this is the first year in, well, since we can remember, Bob and I have been trying to track it down. First time that every candidate who went to level 2 passed. We did have one candidate who passed level 1, qualified, and his visa did not get approved to come from Bahrain over to Denver. So he's a holdover for Paris for next year. So Freddi, I think that we're all going to resonate with your comment regarding what it did for our self-confidence and for our credibility. So, Michael, let me go to you on that then.
Cheryl,
yes,
if I could just add one more thing.
Yes.
With the credibility, one of the things that I teach primarily in Toastmaster circles, although I do international coaching, so I do speech coaching via Zoom, literally around the world, to folks that are wanting to work on a specific presentation, you know, CEOs or, you know, that sort of thing. But what the accredited speaker credential did is that when I'm doing the speech coaching or I'm teaching people how to craft a presentation, it's given me the street cred that I know how to build presentations. So that's one of the value added things that it has done for me.
There you go. Great. Thank you for adding that too. Thank you. Michael, to you, and then to Bob.
Well, I guess the first thing that happened when I got my accredited speaker, Greg Wood had to change all of his marketing material because now he's not the only accredited speaker in Manitoba. So he's the first accredited speaker in Manitoba.
There you go.
But anyway, all kidding aside, if anybody thinks that they're going to get this accredited speaker and then they'll become successful, you're not going to. That it doesn't work that way. You get your accredited speaker because you're successful. The accredited speaker is a culmination of a career of achievement and learning to get to that level. And I don't, and thank God there's no DTM for this qualification because I still don't have one. Greg's, I'm working on it. I'll get it eventually, I hope. But to me, the validation of my Toastmasters experience was, what do I think is the ultimate level, the ultimate accolade? And the ultimate accolade is that little pin. I don't have my plaque with me. I'm actually right now in Virginia. I got a 2-day gig here.
Oh.
So I don't have my plaque. I have my pin on my suit jacket. But to me, that was that accolade to say, yes, you've made it. You are one of the best. And that's what it meant to me. And I think in terms of credibility, if they put you up against, if a meeting planner has to make a decision to say, okay, I have 2 or 3 speakers here. They all look really good, on the videos that they send and everything else. What is a deciding factor? That's one of the things that's going to tip the scale into you. Mm-hmm. So I think it helps you once you get it. It helps you, but you won't become successful. And the phone ain't going to ring off the hook. But the amount that you learn is absolutely incredible.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Bob?
Interestingly enough, as other people have said, the journey is what happens, and that's where I had the growth. For me, way back when in the old days, and I think they still do that, when you get your ATN, they send you out this piece of paper on the Accredited Speaker Program, and they used to say, are you good enough to be a pro? Mm-hmm. I'd never heard of the program before. I put that on the wall in my office for 2 years, and I wrote across it in big black letters, not yet, but I will be, because I came to Toastmasters with that express purpose of getting good so that I could get going around the world. What it's done for me, what it did for me initially was going through the process, taught me what I needed to do to be a professional speaker. Now it's different. Now we're attracting people who are already in the business. In my case, it was the other aspect. But what I did that made a difference for me mentally, when I didn't get it in San Diego, I thought, wait a minute, I'm good enough to be speaking at the international level for Toastmasters International. I should start promoting that. So I started adding that to my presentations. And the same thing in St. Louis, and the same thing moving along, and then finally the last year where I got it. But part of what it did for me was in my own confidence as a professional speaker. To answer that question, are you good enough to be a pro? And Toastmasters said, yes, you are. Mm-hmm. That's what it did for me. And Sheryl would know this. At the time, we got this amazing promotion from Toastmasters back in the old days. We got our name in one line in the back 2 pages of the magazine.
Yeah, that was it.
Year, and I remember the lady who was running the Accredited Speaker Program a couple of years ago said, did you ever get a profile? And I said, no. And I said, you know what they did for me? It was me, Jana Barnhill, Kai Rambo, and Joan Watson. We each got one line in the back 2 pages where it said accredited speakers and boom, boom, boom. That was it. That was the entire thing of what Toastmasters did. Now you get Greg Gazin does the podcast. They
yes.
Write up on you in the magazine.
In the January issue, watch for those.
They have your profile on the Toastmasters website. Plus, we have the accreditedspeaker.com set. There's a lot of stuff that you get now that Sheryl and I didn't get when we went through the program.
No. I don't even have a photo of me receiving the plaque.
Exactly. No
photos.
I had somebody videotape mine, and when I'm having a bad day, I put that on because that was a turning point for me. Because the one thing I was saying earlier in terms of walking across the stage, I had visualized that. My first time in San Diego, I snuck down at 2 o'clock in the morning and practiced walking across that stage. Yes, I got it. And I did everything except what it sounded like when I finally did it 4 years later.
Mm.
And it was all these people yelling and screaming and clapping. I hadn't imagined that. And that
It's a big deal. It's a big, and Bob, thank you for mentioning the word mindset, because as you turn, Bob, stay there for a second, please. So Bob,
yes.
because mindset is so important. And as you turn to your fellow club members there in the room, one of the greatest challenges, I believe, in this whole industry is the mindset to begin with. And you brought up the mindset. You've got to have the mindset. You have the visualization. And whether you use a vision board or putting up that brochure, I have the same brochure. And it said, are you good enough to be pro? And I'm thinking, I don't know. We have to rise to the mindset.
And I think that's part of what the process for me was. It's different now because we've got different qualifications. But in those days, I knew where I wanted to go, and I honestly believed the accredited speaker program would get me there. So I applied myself. I worked harder for that than I probably did since, because it was something that said to me, you are good enough. You are a professional. Now get off your butt and get out and start traveling the world.
Yeah.
And like I say, 61 countries as of this summer.
Yeah. Well done.
24
Well done.
actually paid me to speak.
Mm-hmm. And cover your travel, and your wife Irene's too, and she's on the line tonight.
That came from Toastmasters, and that very specifically came from the Accredited Speaker Program.
Mm.
That's the gift that Toastmasters gave me.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob. I'll add to my story on that it was back in 1992, and I was incoming district governor for District 5 here in San Diego at the International Convention in Toronto, Ontario. And I remember I was up on the Hall of Fame stage receiving the Education and Training Awards, when then I was during the Hall of Fame, and I was dashed off the stage by TI staff on walkie-talkies through the back hallways of this huge convention center into the amphitheater where I was up first. I was not to have been scheduled first. It was in alphabetical order. And evidently there was a candidate ahead of me that had chickened out because the stress is high. So it goes back to Bob's comment of the mindset, and visualization will absolutely help you with this entire process. And for me then, because he had canceled out and I'm up first, I didn't have time to be nervous. And I opened with magic, and I'd never done magic in my life. And I pulled flame out of a Toastmaster coffee mug as I'm talking about percolating power, the magic of having more passion and purpose in your life. And then I used a flip chart, and I remember I was done. It went by so fast. Well, come to find out, I only hit 16 minutes. So to date, it is still the shortest qualifying accredited speaker presentation. And it was 5 out of 5 judges and standing ovation and everything else. But for me, it didn't hit until days later. So unlike Bob, who was smart to visualize going up on the stage, that was the part that I had not visualized. So I'm backstage with Terry McCann, who was our executive director at that time. Before the world champions are announced is when the accredited speakers are awarded. My knees are knocking so hard, I could hear the wood hit. It was knock. And he was a 2-time gold medal Olympic wrestler. And here he's saying, are you okay? And I go, I didn't visualize this part. So I make sure to visualize everything. What it has done for me since is that it goes into all of my marketing. When I am being introduced, especially when I'm speaking to male-dominated audiences, whether it be for keynotes or facilitations or trainings, that when they hear she is one of only 87 accredited speakers in 143 countries out of 4.4 million members, ... Even the men are going, what? And so all of a sudden I've got credibility. So, and then for women's audiences, I may say that I was only the 6th ever female, and I'm still to date the youngest female who has earned the designation. It's how you navigate the marketing text. And I think that let's go there next, because too, our GoProers would love to have information regarding how do you market this. And Mark, thank you for giving us the challenge of bridging the gap between Toastmaster skills and running the business of the speaking industry. And I want to come to as well, Bill Lee, you had said about the website and your social media. Now that you're doing the keynote for TLI about the power of the mind, that topic could very easily segue into something for your accredited speaker. So let's take a look at the business and marketing. Now, you've heard our journeys to get you there and to help you with the mindset. Let's get down into some nuts and bolts. So who would like to start? Colleagues, which one of you would like to start? Michael, great, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Sheryl. Well, I guess the first thing you have to know, I think Greg talked about picking your lane. You have to have a crystal clear picture of your client. And my client is a small rural critical access hospitals, 25 beds or less, period. That's my client. That's who I serve. That's who I go after. All my materials are very specifically directed to them. When I had to choose for my live presentation, my 45-minute was a combination of a little bit of teaching and a little bit of selling. And a wise man who's on my lower left-hand corner here said to me, so are you going to teach or are you going to sell? I said, you know what, I'm going to sell. So my AS speech, quite frankly, is an unmitigated sales job. And it's really great because I've got that now. But you have to be crystal clear on your client. You have to understand your client, what the client needs are. When you know that, the marketing is easy because you know where the pain is and you know how you fit into the solution for that pain. And then you just go after. You can't, I've never believed in taking a sort of shotgun approach. It's too wide for me. It's too broad. I have a very narrow focus. My lean training is in healthcare, small hospitals, and that's really helped me succeed.
That focus. All right. So as you're listening to these tips then, Michael just gave you a whole gem of the whole stream of consciousness there. Nails what marketing is about. Find the pain, be the solution. The message that you create for your marketing must align with who is your audience. So then, matter of fact, what do you do with that? Well, it could be, and I've spoken to GoPro before regarding designing speaking marketing materials. So in in Michael's point right there, then it could be what are the bullet points and the takeaways with action, verb, parallel structure, bullet points of this is what they're going to get. So
Exactly.
and the meeting planners are matchmakers. You know, so Michael is contacting, and who do you contact when you go into healthcare organizations? Who is your what level?
I try to get an appointment with the CEO because the CEO writes the check. There's no sense going to HR. It's a waste of time. They can only say no. They can't say yes. You've got to get the CEO. You got to convince the CEO. Once you've got that done, then you're done. So just for our Canadian friends, I don't market in Canada because of the structure of our healthcare system. Because of the way it's structured, the sales cycle is so long. The contract in Saskatchewan, the lean contract that the government let out for hospitals was $30 million. I work out of my family room. I can't do a $30 million contract. So that's why small rural critical access hospitals are a very clear picture of who my client is.
It is, because then the messaging that you present to those CEOs are at their level. So again, as you had mentioned, the shotgun approach is also known as the confetti type of marketing. They don't work. So it's got to be very targeted. It's the same thing when we are tailoring our presentations for our audiences. Who are they? What are their pains? What do they need? How can we give them hope and skills that they can use? So then you address that, you tailor your presentation, you do the same thing in your marketing. All right, so Greg, you want to go next on this one?
Yep. As soon as I can find that mute button. Coughing so bad here, I don't want anybody else to catch it, so I'm very careful. I mute in between.
Make it disappear, make it vanish. Okay.
When you're trying to sell yourself as a speaker, one of the first things I learned is to deal with people who are already used to paying speakers. You're fighting an uphill battle if you have to convince them first they should hire a speaker, and second that they should hire you. So just deal with people. You'll get the occasional person you might talk into it, but deal with people who, and I spent years working at schools doing assembly presentations. Schools hire people, outside speakers, to come in and speak on certain topics. I couldn't just go in and speak on, I can speak on self-esteem, I can speak on anti-bullying, I spoke on drug abuse prevention. Those are the kind of things that I used to do. But that's what they do. I don't go in there or a reading program. I suppose I could sell them a reading program because they always have reading month in February. I could do that, maybe a math program. But you can't go in there and sell them something that they're not interested or not used to hiring. If they don't hire speakers for their meetings, somebody contacted me and said, you should speak. Because I'd done some small work, some group coaching with early childhood educators, somebody said, well, you should go and speak at the convention. So I contacted them, and they do have speakers at there, but they don't pay them. So I didn't go after that business.
You know what, Greg, let's talk about that for a second, because there are times that we may speak in lieu of fee where we can maximize that. Would you go there for a second?
Oh, certainly. If I thought that there was enough, I'd already kind of taken the market, but if I was working backwards on the system and I hadn't already done all of the masterminds, the small group coaching that I had done with early childhood educators on leadership, if I hadn't already done that, I probably would have gone and spoken for free just so they could see me. You know, it's the same as speaking at Sage when I was working with the schools.
So it's a showcase.
Yeah.
It's a showcase.
You're going out there.
When people know, like, and trust you, they will hire you.
Yeah. And that's really what it was about. So you go out there and give them 10 times more than they expected. In my view, also be 3 times more entertaining than they had ever expected. And then when you call, or you can, if you've got something, some kind of a lead magnet to collect their emails, then when you contact them to send them your slides or whatever you do, you have that in. They already have seen you. They know you. And hopefully after I've spoken, they know and like me.
Yeah, Greg, you're that magic guy.
Yeah, you're that guy that did that funny thing with birds and stuff. Yeah.
Well, thank you, because one of our GoProers, Von Erich, you were talking about branding and marketing, and sometimes you don't brand yourself. Sometimes your market brands you. As in my particular case, one of my trademark presentations is Sparkle When You Speak, and people would not remember my name, but they would start calling me, "You're the Sparkle Lady." Well, today that's the name of my California S Corporation, is Sparkle Presentations. And I have, Sparkle Twos is one of the books and everything else. So sometimes your market brands you. So however they remember you. And Greg, do you have a moniker that also goes, so you have the magic of leadership. Do you have a moniker that you have in your branding, or
the Enter Trainer, I call it.
There it is. Okay.
The Enter Trainer, because you're entertaining and training.
Okay.
Many times, I have not got booked this way, but at least I can open the doors when I can tell people, I'm a double threat. I could come in and do your opening keynote and then stay the day and do your after dinner entertainment. And then they go, oh, they should think about this guy a little more. I've never actually booked both.
You know what?
yet.
Let's create the mindset on that, Greg, that yes, you do. And for our GoPro speakers, here's tips about the business of the business. Whenever you can give more than one presentation at the same event, it saves the event planners travel for another speaker, accommodations, all kinds of other headaches. You need another liaison to work with this, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, you just add cha-ching, 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 maybe a few more $1,000 that you're still saving them that money, and you're full service on that. So think about, how can you give more? And the other thing that you made me think about, Greg, is to be easy to work with, because meeting planners don't want to work with someone who's high demand, high maintenance, diva. It's like, oh, make my job easy and make me look good. So anything else there for you, Greg?
I still mostly use the phone because emails are too cold and they just bounce. you have to send out thousands and thousands of them. And I know there are people out there that'll tell me, oh, if you write the right headline, if you say the right stuff, it's a numbers game, send it out there. But to me, it's still a matter of getting them on the phone, because you got to get them on the phone anyway. I mean, the whole point of emailing them is so you can get them on the phone. So I spend a lot of time on the phone, and I constantly hear from people that tell me that you can't do that. It's not a way to make a living. And I go, sorry.
Yeah, it's Canadian response, right?
It's what I do, you know. I mean, it's you know, get on the phone, and you know, you take your CRM. Every speaker, every potential speaker should have a CRM, and immediately start collecting names of people that they want to get a hold of.
Your database is the greatest gold mine that you can possibly have.
And
the relationships that you have with them.
Yeah.
Great, thank you for that. So I'm going to go over to Freddi then, because I was just mentioning about monikers, and you mentioned what yours is. So if you want to talk about your moniker, your branding, your marketing.
Okay, pardon me. When I was doing a lot of presentations about my experience in the Arctic, people in the audience would call me the Tundra Lady. And for many of you in GoPro, you know a little bit about my story. I was Canada's first female ice road trucker. That's what I did. That was my job. I drove explosives up the ice highway into the Arctic Ocean. Big deal. Well, some people thought it was a big deal. And so the audience started calling me the Tundra Lady. But, you know, I felt that that painted me into a corner, because I was more than that. And so my tagline, or my marketing moniker, is I build people. And now when I do my Inukshuk presentation, I'm building a stone people. So that fits. So it got rid of the Tundra Lady that didn't really resonate with me. And now I build people. What was the rest of the question?
Anything regarding marketing and getting speaking engagements?
Yes. You know, this is where Toastmasters can help. And I'm sorry, I don't remember who it is at GoPro that is speaking at your upcoming TLI. That is a great thing.
There's
to
three speakers in GoPro.
Fabulous.
Right?
And Greg, okay.
And Greg.
So that is really, really good, because Toastmasters is such a wonderfully diverse audience. And there's folks from everywhere, and you don't know if they might know the CEO, or they might be the decision maker, or you just don't know. And so the greatest exposure you can get, and I think Bob and Sheryl do that brilliantly, that the best exposure that you can get through Toastmasters, you know, by giving back to the organization and supporting and coaching and helping, that is number one, some of the best marketing you can do. That is absolutely critical. Secondly, the best marketing I have found is delivering off the charts presentations. Be brilliant, be good, be exceptional, because that's what markets you. Is if you're sort of like, oh, yawn, ho hum. I remember when I was first starting out, I thought I was pretty hot potatoes. I wasn't. I was kind of like lukewarm sushi or something, but I thought I was hot potatoes. And I thought, wow, you know, I just really knocked them dead, and they very politely gave me a standing ovation, but there was absolutely nothing coming from that. So if you're giving a presentation, whether it's through Toastmasters or whether it's to an association, whether it's Rotary, you know, whatever, when you're starting out, if you get no feedback, if you get no contacts, if nobody emails you and says, wow, that was really great, as a result, I'm going to do this differently. If nobody says, hey, do you have a card? I really want to give it to our executive director, really check your performance, because your performance has to be absolutely top notch. You're only as good as your last speech. So that's a strong marketing thing. Like Greg, if I get an opportunity to speak for free, you see, I'm a professional, I'm not a hobby speaker. And my husband, the accountant, is really, really clear on that. And his bottom line is, are you making money? If you're making money, you can think about calling yourself a professional. If you're not making any money, if you're just doing it for fun and dinner and gas, then it's a hobby, which is fine, because when you're starting out, that's where you're at. But I'm a professional, so my bottom line is this is how I make my living. So I evaluate very carefully the opportunity to give a free speech. I take a look at the audience. I talk to the organizer and say, okay, if I come and do this, do you have 5 contacts that hire speakers that you would specifically recommend me to for their next event? Because that kind of one-on-one word of mouth marketing, people promoting you, say, oh, I heard her, she was really good, as a result I know what I have to do. That's invaluable. So if you can get 5 of those, a commitment to 5 of those, then that's worth a speaking fee. And I don't know if we're supposed to talk about fees or not, but Sheryl, we said something the other day that a professional speaking fee has a comma in it.
Comma, has a comma.
Yes, you need to have a comma. 2 would be great, but like start with 1. Start with 1. And so that's what I do. I don't do as much telephone stuff as Greg does, because mine is more word of mouth. I work with associations. I work with learning councils. I used to do work with government organizations, but how they contract has really changed. Like Greg was saying, now they want the Morneau Chappelles and things like that. So I don't do that. I never got into the oil and gas market, so my business hasn't suffered as a result of that. However, even small companies are doing less training. I have very purposely chosen not to work for money in the US. I just don't want to muck around with the tax hassles. So
And I feel the same way, by the way, for Canada. So
yeah.
Yes, with the GST. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? That's just a business decision that I made. And some other people, like Michael and Greg and Bob, they've made different decisions. So part of when you're putting your business plan together, and I absolutely say you have to have a business plan. If you don't know how to write one, there's online, there's courses you can take, but for goodness sakes, have a good business plan, because a business plan can change, morph, and be added to. But if you don't have a plan, how are you going to know where you're going or how you're going to get there? So within your business plan, like Michael was saying, think about who is your audience. My niche is wider than Michael's. So I work a lot with associations. I like small markets. So I'm not going to the big centers. I do like rural Saskatchewan, even if they conjure up a blizzard every time I go there. I like rural communities. I do a lot of work with women's conferences. That's a whole bunch of fun for me. And then I also do work with organizations that are teaching young people job skills. I go in and I do soft skill training, and I teach them how to put together a presentation. I've got this wonderful little formula that I teach them so that they can communicate well in their job interview and when they're at work. So that's specifically how I do it. But I've got a plan that I look at every year. I set audience targets, I set monetary targets, I set travel targets, kind of like Bob. I haven't been to all those countries and everything, but I really plot out my year in advance. And in some years, I even achieve everything that I've said, but at least I've got the goals and targets there. So for my marketing, I've got a website, and I've got Facebook and LinkedIn. And I have to say, I don't like social media. I really don't. I just, to me, it's a waste of time. I mean, I can waste 3 hours in the morning going through Facebook and all of that stuff. It's just not my thing. But
now, Freddi, we see you because you're posting falling leaves, standing up, and falling snow right now. You're busted. You're busted.
I know. I do it, but I don't like it. But,
oh, okay.
But relational. And Toastmasters absolutely helps with that.
Oh gosh, Freddie, that was so loaded. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Mark. Can you bring Bob up to the front of the room?
He's just reloading. We lost the best thing he said all day. He's just reloading for a second.
Okay. All right. So Bob, the questions to you are about marketing and getting engagements. And this would be a good time to plug Alberta speakers.
All right. Anyway, first thing I want to say, based on what somebody said, branding is not what you say about you. It's about what other people say about you. And once you learn that, you can build on that. Like, I'm known around the world as the idea man. That came from one of my clients sitting down working on something. He said, "You're a real idea man, aren't you?" And then I started hearing that from other people, so I built on it.
Yeah.
And now that's the kind of stuff. People see you in an airport, they'll, "Hey, idea man," or Hooey. They say that too. But the other thing, that helps in terms of, I'll get into marketing in a sec, is who knows you and what do they know about you? What do they know about what you speak about, what you deliver, what you exceed in? When I first started in this business, I got a lot of business in the States and across Canada from people that were in the States, because I was one of the few Canadians they knew. A lot of my friends in NSA, they would say, "Oh, talk to Bob up in Vancouver, he can help you." And so, yes, lots of times I could help them, or sometimes I would connect them with somebody who could help them. So that was one of the things. One of the other things that,
Bob, people also thought that you knew everybody in Canada.
well, except for the 25 people that got born today, probably, yes. And I learned that from my dad. My dad was the kind of person who knew everybody, but and yet I only know about 10 people in my little town of 78, but that's a different story. But one of the other things that I've done that's been very successful over the years is writing articles, books, those kinds of things, and using that as a way to connect with people. And for example, on my websites, I have a lot of articles, and I say to people, feel free to use this article if you like, as long as you put contact information and credits. I got a nice little paid vacation to work in Cancun because somebody put one of my articles on somebody else's website, and I got a phone call from a lady saying, "Hey, we decided we want you to come to Cancun because I just read this article you wrote, and it's perfectly in line with what we're doing for our dealers across Canada." It was one of the big tire manufacturers here, retailers here in Canada. They were having all their dealers come to Cancun in December. So I thought about it for about a microsecond and said, "Yes, I'll come." And they didn't quibble on the money. I should have asked them for more money, but but I did get it in US dollars, so that was good.
Yeah, there you go.
So what was the other part of the question? Other marketing.
About anything regarding marketing tips, or getting engagements outside of Toastmasters. And so too, Bob, you have a great angle here because you are a member of GoPro Speakers. So as you look at your fellow members in the room, what tips would you offer for them in getting outside the club, taking perhaps their advanced manuals or doing their advanced pathways and getting engagement? So right now we have people who had mentioned, matter of fact, Von Erich was talking about publishing, well, it's about Rotaries and Lions, and Freddie had tapped into that. What else in order to go pro? Okay,
well, I think some of that is the associative thing. One of the things that you mentioned was the Alberta Speakers Program. That was an idea that I had, I don't know, 11 or 12 years ago. I thought we can work together here in Alberta and promote each other. So I said, if I can get 10 people that want to make this happen, I'll put together a website, because I happen to have a very talented wife, which is, I market her even though she doesn't know I'm marketing her, although she's watching now, so I'm in trouble. And we did that, and we're still going. Freddi's been on that Alberta Speakers for most of those years. I'm sure she's not staying on just because I'm a nice guy. She must be getting something from it. And well, yeah, okay, she's going like that. That's how my wife does that same thing. I know what that means, Freddi. I get that at home, but I think part of it is who knows you and what do they know about you? And you need to look at ways to get yourself in front of other marketing, as well as you need to have other speakers talk about you. Because whether you're really good and you know it all, and I don't, you can't do everything for everybody. And one of the worst things you can do as a speaker is take on something that you're not the expert. Because maybe you'll be lucky and get through it, but maybe you won't. And if you don't, you screw up your credibility, because they're going to go, don't hire that guy because he did a horrible job. And, you know, I've seen people do that. They become what I call book report speakers. They read a book on, you know, highly effective people and blah, blah, blah. And so they do a program on it, you know, and it's really sad to do that. You need to develop your own program and your own content and your own expertise. And that's part of the journey, just to say, what do I know? What do I do that makes a difference? I tell people, I travel the world, and in today's competitive environment, people need two things. They need help and they need hope. That's my business. And I deliver that in a number of ways, boom, boom, boom. And that works for me.
Okay, good tips. Thank you. Let's see, Michael, did you want to add anything? Because we've added to the conversation. Thank you, Bob. Did you want to tap on anything else for marketing or getting gigs? Yours is a hyper niche. And yet the tips that you gave us were great about matching the message, naming the pain.
My moniker is the Dean of Lean.
Oh, hey, that works for you.
That works for me. No, not really. As I say, I'm very focused. Very focused. Although, you know, the comment that, you know, about earning money. There's one organization that I do an annual free keynote. It's a lunch and learn, and I get paid a soda and an egg salad sandwich, which is not exactly, you know, that's not even a comma fee. But anyway, you know, like in you know, 10, you know, anyway, to make a long story short, I do that because I know that every year I will get a phone call sometime during the year and someone will hire me for a full fee engagement because I was there. And I'm a draw. I get a good audience. So there, you really have to judge and weigh the advantages and disadvantages when you're doing free stuff. But certainly, I think we all do it. But again, I look at that as that's an hour of marketing cost for a full fee engagement. That's pretty good, rate of return on your investment of time.
What about writing articles too? Because so, for instance, we can write articles from our area of expertise, be published in trade magazines and associations, in addition to our fees. Then it can go online with links to our pages directly. So again, more business tips regarding that. At one point I was doing, and my mindset was that if I want to be a speaker, then I need to speak. And I think that was infused from my father's Midwestern farming. You know, it's like, if you're going to do this, then you got to do that. You know, if this is what you're going to do, then do that. And so I did it. One time I was a member of 5 Toastmaster clubs. And by the way, you do have 6 GoPro members presenting at TLI. So Greg, thank you for popping that note into the chat box. And I remember because my philosophy is every time you're asked to speak, the answer is yes, then figure it out. And that helped me to accelerate, probably polish up my skill. I also found out which topics I should not be speaking about. You know, even though I practice goal setting, I practice time management, I'm not a speaker on either of those. I will refer the paid gigs to it. I want to go back to Christine. Let's see, Christine, you're on the Zoom with us. And something that you said in the introductions today was about time is one of your challenges. Well, if you want to be paid to speak, you need to invest the time. So again, it goes back to the mindset. What are your priorities? And Christine, I also heard you say that you want to speak at, there's a women's conference coming by you, and that you wanted to get your name out there. And your question was what to give them to show that you can and that you would be a good speaker for it. Again, you need to have your topic, your title, your takeaways, your marketing materials. Go back into the archive and mark Mark Haynes, feel free to send out that link again after tonight's program regarding designing speaker marketing materials. And that would be a great refresher. And it came with a handout too of what goes where and why, a template for a two-sided one sheet on that. And Freddi had commented that she speaks to women's conferences too. That's really how I got started. In addition to being an independent subcontractor trainer for a large seminar company and presenting their material, but putting my spin on it, which Bob came to one of my presentations in, gosh, wasn't it Bob? Was it in Vancouver or was it over into Washington that you came over and you attended the program that I did? We had lunch and we talked about the Accredited Speaker Program, but you've got to have practice. So then people who are hiring us, we need to have the practice pretty much out of the way. We need to be, this is what we do. We're not practicing. You know, that's why you command a comma with that. So we're going to be opening it up to questions. So if you would, and Mark or Gloria, whoever is going to be monitoring, you know, and shooting questions for that, let me go through the self-introductions here and see if there's anything else that I heard. Benita, you were talking about creating valuable programming, and it had to do with picking your lane, and that's the theme for your December meeting. I think that's brilliant. So it could be that in your self-introductions, that meeting, Benita, that everyone says, here are the lanes I'm considering. You know, maybe it's only 2 different lanes that you have. Shiraz, I hope that we have addressed your question regarding speaking to non-Toastmaster groups. Again, practice is going to be amazing. So Rotary, Optimist, Sur Optimist, Lions, all of those service organizations require weekly speakers that are 20 minutes in length. So here's how you leverage those. You take your speech project with you. You speak on a topic that you want to get paid on so that you're getting real world application on it. You take a guest with you to that meeting that they get a free meal as well as you do. You get your evaluation, and it counts for an outside presentation, which could be posted on your accredited speaker application. Boom, mic drop. Leverage it, leverage it. So let's open it up for questions. Who has?
Do we have any
Okay.
questions from the audience?
What have we not yet addressed?
Questions. Benita, you have your hand up. Here you go.
Can you describe more about the CRM, exactly what it is, how it works? It's a brand new concept to me.
Okay, Greg, if you want to go to CRM. Greg, what?
It's a customer relation management tool. You know, I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm really cheap. I use a free one called HubSpot. It does everything I need it to do. For years, I used one called Act, but then I got really smart and moved over to Mac products, and it doesn't work. Act doesn't work on a Mac product or an Apple product, so I no longer use that. But it is really a way to store all of your information about a client. I get a client, a potential client, sorry. I get a business card, or somebody has given me some way. I've captured it, maybe even by looking and saying, oh, these people hold an event that my speech would be perfect for. I put them into the database. I then send them an email, and that in the database, I put down, call them in, you don't want to be hassling them. So, I put call them again in 15 minutes. But no, I tell them to go 5 business days. 5 business days, I'll call them back in 5 business days, or I'll re-email them in 5 business days, because those things get lost so fast. And just, I sent you this email, wondering if you're the person to contact about speaking at this event, or who is the person. Just a quick question like that. That's the short suite of what I send. But I don't have to remember when I'm supposed to call them back. I just had one come up today that is somebody. It's actually a little bit different. I'm looking for somebody that's doing donation stuff, but I called him. I'm supposed to call him today about setting for his 2020 goals for what he's given charity-wise, and it just pops up and tells me. Now, I talked to him. The last time I talked to him was a year ago. He said, call me next year. So I put it into the calendar, and it tells me exactly what to do. I don't have to remember to do all those things. It's automated. And when the emails come in, if you're using Gmail in some form or another, it'll come in and it actually goes into your database up with that person. So you have to keep some people. There's certain people I don't put in the database, like I don't put Michael in the database or Cheryl or,
Hey.
well, no, because I get hundreds of emails from them that, I don't put them, and they're not clients, and not potential clients anyway. They're just
Okay.
friends and colleagues, but that's why, but you want to be sure about that. But all of that stuff comes in, and if you use it, I can even tell when they open their emails, when those emails have been opened and if they've been opened. That's all available through that, and it's just a way to track all the stuff you're doing. You want to go in, if you really want to make this a business, then find yourself 100 places that you can speak and put them all in there and get started.
And preferably for pay. So on the application for the accredited speaker, you need to have 25 presentations outside of Toastmasters, meaning it is not a Toastmaster audience. So those of you speaking for TLI, it does not count. And for pay, if you give more than one presentation at an engagement at which you're paid, that can count for 2 different presentations on the application. So you're looking for 25 outside presentations, of which at least 15 need to be paid, and think fees with commas. Commas. The judges look at every single group, so it's the date, the name of the client, the length of the presentation, the fee received, and the audience size. So the judges are looking for, are you truly a professional speaker? And let me draw your attention, as we're waiting for more questions to come in, at the bottom of the handout here that went out for today, in the bottom left-hand corner, we are available for complimentary mentoring regarding the accredited speaker designation. And for that, you want to go to accreditedspeakers.com. This is a website that Irene, Bob's wife, has prepared for us and updates it, maintains it. And it's wonderful because you can go to the mentorship tab and you can look through the list. Bob, do you remember how many are there? Is it about 30, 35 of us, I guess? The other day I did a list of how many active accredited speakers that we have, and it's about 45, 46, very active out of the 87. There's probably even more, but that's what I had on my CRM for the accredited speakers for the list. And we're available in the application process. Before you submit it, have us preview your application, have us preview the video. So what you want to be doing is videotaping more than one presentation, get professional coaching. Many of us are available for coaching on that video as well, or coaching in the business. But otherwise, the submission for the video, have us look at it before, and that's complimentary. And we'll let you know if we think it would pass or fail. This last year, let's see, in Chicago, there were, let's see, in Washington, there was one speaker I worked with, in Chicago, another one, and then for Denver, I previewed their videos before it went to judging, and based on what they had submitted, it would have been an immediate fail or a disqualification for different reasons. So it's like, no, you make sure that you videotape professionally more than one. Freddi, you want to add to that?
Yes, I just want to say that at your meetings or wherever you are, whatever you're doing, for goodness sakes, be videotaping absolutely everything you do. Where is it? There we go. Most of us have one of these devices, and some of us even have one of these devices, which is the Hey Mic. This is absolutely wonderful. I love my Hey Mic.
Yes.
So at my home club, we record absolutely every speech from icebreaker to the advanced stuff to the ed sessions, everything. And what we do is that video is then made available to the member so that they can review it, and they can look at their evaluation, they can look at their video, and they can go like, oh yeah, I see what you mean. I was, twiddling my hair, or I was doing the pee-pee dance. Can I say that?
You did.
Okay. Like, am I fidgeting? Am I doing all of that? Because that is the best way to learn, is to look at yourself as the audience looks at you. Now, the meeting videos, you know, you can't submit them for anything, but then you're in the habit. I've got a little gorilla grip and I just set this, I wrap it on the back of a chair, I set it on the front, whatever. Everything I do, whether it's a full day training or TLI or, you know, professional work, I record everything. Also, just a minute here, Greg. Also, what I do is that for a meeting organization, let's say I'm working at a small rural women's conference or whatever, previous to the event, I'll be negotiating fee and this, that. And sometimes, you know, what makes or breaks is the fact that I'll say, you know what, let's record it. And I know you're going to have some ladies that can't make it because it's Saskatchewan and you're going to have a blizzard. And for 30 days, why don't you make that video available to the ladies that you think might have been there? I get gigs from that. So that's just my thoughts about whatever you do, just video, 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 video. You can't overdo it.
You're
That's
preaching
true.
to the choir here. That's one of the things with GoPro that we made a commitment with all our
Good.
speakers, is that we not only record all the speeches, we do so without having the Toastmaster banner behind them. So then it can also serve as part of their video portfolio if then when they get enough video footage that they can put something together to help market themselves. So it's something that
Absolutely brilliant. And Mark, does your club have its own YouTube channel?
we do. We haven't published everything yet on our YouTube channel, but this slowly, as I'm going through all the footage, we've created a intro banner and an outro banner on it as well to talk about GoPro. But then I will also give footage, raw footage, to the speakers so that they can use it for their own promotional needs.
Wonderful. Like my home club, we have our own YouTube channel, and if members choose, we upload their video to YouTube so that they can share it with, you know, friends, family, or whatever. So good.
This is wonderful. Hey, there's a comment here, and to let you know that Greg has curated a list of the Toastmasters Accredited Speaker podcasts. I put it into the chat box, and it's in a blog post created in advance of this meeting. The latest post is at gadgetguy.ca, and you can look at the list or download the PDF. Freddi, there's also a question here from Joe who would like to know if you offer coaching on how to become an accredited speaker, or specific, because coaching, let's see, mentoring for accredited speaker. And in that bottom left-hand corner of the handout, this is what we include complimentary, is previewing the application, previewing the video, and let you know what to expect or plan for after passing level 1 before the convention judging of level 2. So that's the complimentary mentoring. If you want coaching regarding your speech, your video, the business, anything that's not covered in that, then most of us do charge for that.
Yep.
And you can reach out to any of us regarding it. And I want to draw your attention into the bottom line 4 questions in the bottom right-hand corner of the handout. Again, as I mentioned this at the beginning of our session tonight, these are the bottom line questions. The judges are looking for paid presenters and ask, would you hire this speaker? Would you refer the speaker for engagement? Would you pay admission to be in that audience? Would you consider this speaker to be a professional colleague? And it needs to pass each of those really in order to pass for the designation. What final questions do we have here? We're doing great. More questions here.
Do we have any other questions from the other side of the room? No? I think Benita has another question that she'd like to ask.
Thank you.
Sheryl, if let's say someone's presentation that they're working on that they dream to be paid for, if it doesn't always fit the Toastmasters programming, so for example, the Pathways programming, the Legacy programming, often Toastmasters, of course, encourages you to always do a manual speech, but sometimes it doesn't fit the program. So I was just wondering if you could speak to that, because there are speakers hungry to speak and give these speeches we dream to be paid for, but if it doesn't fit the programming, how do we get
Thank
that?
you. I think, thank you. Greg Wood was doing a magic act. I think he'd like to respond to your question.
You can cram it in someplace. We allow that at our club. If it's supposed to be a 7 to 9 minute speech, and you got a 15-minute keynote story you want to tell, we're here to help each other. We're not here to hinder you or to get in your way or fall back. And if you take, there's no disqualification for going over at the club level. So it's not a speech contest. So we allow it, and the person can mark you on using props or your voice inflection or your pacing or whatever it is need be. You have one person in your club. They evaluate you based on that, and then you get your evaluation for moving forward in pathways. But the rest of the club should be using the form that Sheryl has shown us, the feedback form. That
Or
one.
this is the ballot. This is a judging
The
ballot.
ballot. You should be using the ballot. That's the one. You should be using the ballot, and everybody should be filling that out. Each time that you speak, even when you're not doing a full keynote, you still need to be thinking in those ways. Because remember, some of the problems is we think we need to be Toastmastery, and Toastmastery is you got to move out from behind the podium. And I am going to pull my hair out the next time I hear that. I'm not bald yet, but I am getting there. If the podium is where the microphone is, stay there. Don't go wandering around the room just because somebody in Toastmasters told you it was the right thing to do. It's not. Stay behind the microphone. But beyond that, it's not that. It's you want to be going towards what a professional does, and that's why you want to use that ballot form.
There you go. Good, thanks. Freddi.
I just want to add that if you're looking to get the Toastmaster credit for your project, that's the beauty of Pathways. Pathways is the truly most customizable program ever. And so you can make it work if you're wanting to practice your pre-pro stuff as well as move ahead in Pathways. You can make it work, just like Greg was saying. Secondly, if you're working on a keynote, for example, a great way of really doing sufficient practice is to pull out a 7-minute section and bring it to the meeting. Just focus on that little bit. One of the absolute best books I've ever read, it's this one. It's called Atomic Habits, Tiny Changes, Remarkable Rewards, James Clear. This is all about the practice of practice, how to practice well and properly and appropriately. You can never over practice. What makes me absolutely goofy is when people say, well, I don't want to do too much practicing. I don't want to get too good. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You cannot, but you have to practice purposefully and you have to practice perfectly. And so by pulling out little pieces of your speech and getting them absolutely perfect, then pull out the next one. So you can still accomplish both goals, and then you just put them together and you've got an absolutely brilliant 60-minute keynote doing it that way.
Thank you. Michael.
There we go. What I found really helpful on my journey is, especially doing the practices, you watch yourself, you hear yourself, but your mind is filtering. And what I found very helpful, I sent the audio track to a transcriptionist. Cost $5 on Fiverr, and she transcribed it. And when I read what I had said, it was a whole lot different than what I had heard when I watched myself. So if you really want to come up with a good script, and you really want to get those, you really want to wordsmith it, actually have it transcribed. You will be amazed at what you've said. And I found that hugely helpful in being able to really craft a strong speech.
Thank you. Bob Hooey, let's see, Mark, you're raising your hand. Do you have a question or comment?
I'll take that one step further, Michael. Rev.com, REV.com. They have both a manual transcription service as well as an automated transcription service. They use AI, and it's 10 cents a minute for the automated. And it is darn near close. So it's really good, and it's cheaper than Fiverr.
I've used both of those. I've also used Trint, TRINT.com. So same thing there. Bob, let's see, Bob, where'd you go?
I just went down. I went and sat down over here.
Oh, okay. Any final comments from you, tips, suggestions?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and people have said that, especially nowadays, you have a little thing called a computer. I mean, some people call it a phone, some people call it a camera, but you can use that as a growth tool for yourself. Like Freddi says, videotape everything you do and then take a look at it for two reasons. One, you get a chance to see what you do. Here's a little tip. Take your videotape, turn the sound off, and put it on high speed. And then you'll see what you do. And this is something somebody suggested to me about 15 years ago. I found out that I chopped wood because that's what they saw. They saw this, and every so often I would go, and then I would chop wood. And I didn't see it until I saw it. And you want to see what the audience sees. The second thing is you might actually get something, as somebody else said, that you can use as B-roll when you're creating a demo tape. And I've done that with mine. You've probably seen it online. It's just, some of it is stuff that I've done around the world where I've had a camera going, either a professional camera or my own little one, and you get something that you can use that says, without saying it, like if you look at my demo roll, it says Bob Hooey is an international speaker without saying, Bob speaks around the world. You see that in the video because it's, here I am in Italy, here I'm in here I'm there. And that has to do with your marketing in terms of the message you want to get across to the people that are watching what you do. So videotape everything, take the feedback. Sometimes if you could do it like in your club or whatever, videotape the evaluations. So you can take it home and listen to it the next day when you're not emotionally attached to what you're doing.
Thank you.
So you can learn from it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to my colleagues who have chimed in from across North America for this. Our intention tonight in this session is to challenge you, to really challenge you to do more than what you're doing and really level up, step up the bar. So whether you're fairly new or whether you're seasoned, whether you're being paid now yet or planning on it, that you know more about the Accredited Speaker Program and know that the red carpet is rolled out for you, that we want you to pass the first time. So take advantage of the mentoring. When you do, in the email, please let us know. It's mentoring for the Toastmasters Accredited Speaker Program. We also have on Facebook, we have Accredited Facebook group, and on LinkedIn. And you are more than welcome to continue this conversation with us. Reach out, tag us, ask us questions. Let us know how we can be of support for you. And bottom line, believe in yourself. If this is what you want to do, then you need to be doing it. So on behalf of Toastmasters International, my colleague accredited speakers, we thank you for the dynamic program, Benita. Thank you very much for GoPro Speakers posting this as well. So it's been our honor to bring this information to you.
Okay. Cheryl, on behalf of the GoPro speakers and to Freddi, Michael, Greg, and of course our beloved Bob, thank you, thank you, thank you. It was, what can I say? Meeting on steroids. You've given us so much information. It is wonderful. We're going to have to all take it home and just process it. But what I really appreciated about each and every one of you is that you took us on a journey of showing us the challenges, showing us the good parts, showing us things that, the not so pretty parts as well, and giving us information to just take home and just mull over. So thank you so much to each and every one of you. And another round of applause to an amazing group of speakers.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Before we end, we also have a book that might be looking a little familiar to Cheryl, and it's called Solid Gold Newsletter Design, and it is written by Sheryl Roush, and it is thank you to Bob Hooey that we are going to give a copy of this away to some lucky person sitting in this room. So if everybody could just look under their chair, and some lucky person is going to have a tape that says winner on it, then you are taking this home.
We're looking under our chairs.
Looking under your chairs, and we have a winner! Yay! Congratulations, and I know you're going to enjoy that. All right, thank you. And again, thank you so much, and I'm sure we are going to look forward to having more than 87 accredited speakers come join you. Thank you once again.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Good night, GoPros.